ecce agnostai qui tollit peccatum mundi. Behold the Lamb of God, which taketh away the sin of the world. Jesus Christ, the Lamb of God, changed the world forever. The effects of this can be seen even in science, technology, history, art, and culture. In this podcast, we explore these effects and learn what it means for us today to follow the Lamb. I'm Joshua Göcking, and you're listening to the Follow the Lamb podcast. Episode 3: Man vs. Machine. The danger of computers becoming like humans is not as great as the danger of humans becoming like computers. Konrad Zuse. Konrad Zuse is considered to be the inventor of the computer. His Z3, which he built in 1941, was the world's first functionally and freely programmable computer. Even back then, there were ideas that computers could one day become like humans. Today, many see this moment as only a matter of time. The term artificial general intelligence, or short AGI, refers to the current goal of creating artificial intelligence that is in no way inferior to humans, but even surpasses them. CEOs of large AI companies, such as Sam Altman of OpenAI's ChatGPT, are very optimistic that this stage could be reached in just a few years. Others are more cautious about such predictions. Even if it is possible to create an AI that meets these requirements, this does not answer the question of whether the intelligence created is equivalent in nature to human intelligence. Is it capable of solving the intellectual problems that a human being can solve because it thinks like a human being? Or does it follow an algorithm that makes it act like a human being but behave like a machine inside? The AI pioneers mentioned above often dismiss this question and are convinced that AI will soon think just like humans. Are they right? After all, they are the experts. Experts in the technical field, yes. But are they also experts in human affairs? Today's AI, in the form of so-called large language models, or LLMs, are already capable of reviewing and analyzing the works of Shakespeare. Have they really understood the human experiences of Shakespeare's works conveyed in the last article and drawn their own conclusions? Or have they scoured the internet for everything relevant and used this data to weigh up the most accurate summary of the interpretation of the text without understanding a single word of it themselves, let alone being able to empathize with the underlying experience? Looking at how these LLMs work, it becomes clear that the latter is the case. Daily experience with LLMs also shows that they will still seem to be a long way from AGI. Even if this is achieved one day, the question remains whether it will be comparable to human thinking in essence. This is a philosophical question, not a technical one. However, I do not think this is likely to be the case. Konrad Zuse seems to have seen it similarly. According to the opening quote, he considers the danger of humans becoming more like computers to be greater. What does he mean by this? I believe he's referring to the tendency to unconsciously assimilate to the function of the machine because one consciously or unconsciously identifies the function of one's own mind with it. It was always the case that a view of the human mind has been tied to the greatest technological development currently available. In ancient times, the mind was described as something that had to be guided, like the reins of a chariot. After the invention of the steam engine, the mind was described as a machine that sometimes needed to let off steam. In the computer age, the mind is often referred to as a computer. I've got that on file, one might say. Or I'm not programmed that way. When you are very tired, you might also say, I need to shut down, to reboot, to restart. One might argue that these are just expressions and that we are aware that they do not accurately describe what is actually going on in our minds. Nevertheless, what we say over and over again becomes ingrained in our thinking and beliefs. This may not be the case for everyone, but this behavior can be observed in some people. If you listen more closely to the AI pioneers, you quickly come to the conclusion that some of them have deeply internalized this view. In their eyes, the human mind is nothing more than a powerful computer that will soon be surpassed by its silicon counterpart. These views are held primarily by adherents of a materialistic worldview in which free will is nothing but an illusion and emotions are merely the result of chemical processes. In many areas, humans have already adapted a way of life oriented towards the nature of a computer. If the AI enthusiasts and materialists are right, this is not a problem at all. After all, humans are nothing more than computers. However, if this is not true, such an attitude can have drastic consequences. The one or other mental problem could be attributed solely to this. So what can we do? I think it is important in times like these to consciously avoid falling into such a machine thinking. Our nature is more than a purely materially mind based on the principles of a computer. Our feelings do not originate exclusively from chemical imbalances in our bodies. And we have a spirit that God has given us so that we can connect with Him. In other words, we are not mere machines, but creatures of God with free will, free thoughts, and human feelings. It is not only important to see ourselves as more than machines, it is also important to see machines as nothing more than that. When we have used an LLM to solve an important problem, it is tempting to thank the chatbot. According to Sam Altman, the energy costs of these expressions of gratitude alone are enormous. Since chatbots have no feelings and only feign them to be more appealing to customers, they do not care about expressions of gratitude. On the contrary, it means more work for them. Even if one does not care about this aspect since they are machines after all, such an action implies something else. One is treating the chatbot as a human being. Only humans express gratitude to each other and to God. If I express my gratitude to a machine, I am thus, albeit unconsciously, considering it comparable to a human being. In other cases too, when we get carried away discussing with a chatbot or whether jokingly or serious we elevate these machines to the level of a human being in our minds. In order to avoid the danger of becoming like a computer, I believe it is important to maintain this distance in our consciousness and thus also in our actions. And I get that this is not always easy since the chatbots are really convincing in portraying the image as if they would be people just like us, which they of course are not. And I think also you need to separate from this basically this meme that goes around where people say, yeah, okay, in a future world where the machines take over, you are then not the one who is not killed because you always said thank you in the chat to the chatbot, which I don't think is a future that will be there except for in movies. I think even if there might be some kind of takeover of machines, it will be more like this future that Konrad Zuse envisions where men basically think like machines or basically consider themselves to be machines and have this machinistic and materialistic approach to everything, and where machines in the end will always be machines. They will, as I believe, not in some point acquire something that we call consciousness, because I think consciousness is more than a material thing. It's the spirit of God that is blown, as it says in creation, that is blown by His breath into us. This is basically what, in my opinion, conscience is all about, and this you cannot put into a machine, and therefore I think machines will always just act like they are human. They might be even able act like they are conscious, but they never will be actually conscious, and so therefore they will always be machines. They will always be machines on which deterministic algorithms will run, and therefore even if they can be really sophisticated, if they can really go far ways in their technology, and even if it might one day come to a state where even they rule over men also, I think this will look much differently than in the movies. They will still be machines, they will still follow an algorithm, and in this way I think they even will not be able to take over basically. But even if they would, then it would look a lot different, and they would still be machines, would still have no consciousness, and then for them it will still make no sense to leave somebody alive because he said thank you. So if this would be the case, they would behave much more like a sociopath than like normal people, because they could not distinguish such things and so on. So that's how I see it. And therefore, you don't need to worry to not thank the chatbot enough, because it's really just a simple machine. There is nothing more to it. There are just algorithms running through the wires. And although it looks pretty convincing like an actual human being, or like an actual being, like an actual consciousness, it is not. And in my opinion, it never will be. And humans, on the other hand, are more than machines, and this conviction seems to be receding into the background more and more in our time, which makes it all the more important to really hold on to it. Thank you for listening to the Follow the Lamb podcast. Now it's your turn. Please let me know what you think about this episode. If you are on Spotify, you can use the comment section below. Otherwise, you can go over to my Substack, youfollowthelamb.substack.com, and there you find all the podcast episodes as articles, and you can read them again if you like, and also comment on them. If you want to contact me directly, feel free to use the contact form at my webpage sci-faith.de/en/contact. Please also note that this is an independent podcast, which means it is only produced and marketed by me, and therefore I need your support. Share it with your friends, relatives, and everyone you think might be interested in hearing these episodes. Also, do not forget to give this podcast a 5-star rating and subscribe to it to never miss an episode. Thank you very much, and follow the Lamb.